In January of this year, Maine witnessed some of the most damaging coastal storms in recorded history. As a team, we saw a renewed sense of urgency from coastal communities to understand and plan for climate change, sea level rise, and coastal flooding. Sea level rise is driving coastal storms to cause more destruction. It is also causing sunny day flooding to occur more frequently, disrupting livelihoods and well-being in communities. Reliable coastal water level forecasts and local understanding of what weather and water levels lead to coastal flooding are critical to helping communities adapt to living with water.
Maine has over 5,000 miles of tidally influenced coastline, but only 5 NOAA tide gauges that provide real-time water level measurements that can be used for flood forecasting. Recent advances in technology have made it possible to build these tide gauges at low cost, but in a way that still provides high enough quality data for flood forecasting and tide predictions. The Gulf of Maine Research Institute partnered with Hohonu, a startup launched out of a lab at the University of Hawaii that builds these low-cost gauges, to install new tide gauges in 4 coastal Maine communities that are already experiencing routine coastal flooding. Through this project, we were able to combine Hohonu's technological expertise with the Gulf of Maine Research Institute's scientific expertise and experience working closely with coastal Maine communities to advance both of our work. We installed Hohonu's first radar tide gauge in Machias. Radar tide gauges capture high waters better in windy and rainy conditions that we tend to care about during coastal flooding events compared to the ultrasonic gauges that Hohonu has typically made. And we supported Hohonu in improving their calculations of tidal datums, which are numbers that are key to have for coastal planning and navigation applications.
We realized that the creation of a replicable framework for this work that anyone could implement would provide lasting benefit to the coastal communities throughout the region. We are using all the lessons learned from this pilot project to advise a larger regional effort on collaborating with communities to site gauges, on installing gauges in a way that provides high-quality data, and on avenues for leveraging that data to actually engage communities and ultimately build resilience.
We worked with the National Weather Service to design a data collection protocol that allows community members to contribute their own coastal flooding observations to a community science project. Using a given community's local observations, combined with data that tide gauges are collecting, the National Weather Service can improve flood alert systems and other services.
Overall, it was important for us from a time constraint standpoint of when we had to close roads down, because we do have critical roads in those areas, and unfortunately they did flood and we had to close them down.
We also engaged people of all ages in collecting and contributing coastal flooding data to support long-term planning. To increase local participation, we partnered with trusted place-based community organizations to engage over 70 participants in conversations around sea level rise and coastal flooding, led 13 coastal meetups across Maine, and offered signage for flood monitoring sites to local municipalities. Over 500 observations have been submitted since the start of the Community Science Project. We also collaborated with educators in Machias, St. George, Boothbay Harbor, and Portland to develop and pilot a middle school and high school curriculum.
Curriculum-wise, we dedicated a lot of time in the classroom to it, and we did a lot of background research. I wouldn't change anything that we did, and I wouldn't change any of the time that we spent out in the field. The impact was more personal for them, and then I think that was a game changer.
Some students even shared their own ideas for possible solutions to stem coastal flooding in their communities in St. George and Portland.
We've built a community science platform with a data visualization tool that combines community members' observations, tide gauge data, and community-based impact information all in one place.
We are also offering our partner communities grants to support projects that build off of this project and help them to meet their community goals and build resilience. For example, folks in Machias are creating interpretive signage to engage community members in local coastal resilience discussions and community science. We are already expanding beyond the initial impacts of this project as involvement in our community science project grows. More and more teachers use our resources in their classrooms, and collected community science data is utilized in short-term adaptations and long-term planning, such as community vulnerability assessments.
A key objective of this work is to sustain it beyond the life of the project. We are accomplishing that through continued access to Hohonu data and technology, workshops and ongoing access to the middle and high school curriculum for educators to engage students, and grants for strategy implementation in the 4 case study communities.
By engaging coastal communities in science and technology around these important issues, we can ensure that more solutions implemented by municipalities are science-based, community-driven, and youth-involved.